At the last turn of the long hallways that she had been walking through, Princess Ebony could see a group of nobles standing outside the throne room entrance. All the nobles standing there were from Ilarion. There was not a single nobleman from any of the countries that had been invited to her ball standing among the natives of Alarion. Princess Ebony shook her head in disappointment. "What did you expect?" asked Nova curiously. "I don't know what I expected in particular. I guess I was hoping there would be more, maybe a prince or two, or a nobleman that might still want me and take me to their country. If I am to be banished," Princess Ebony said sadly. "If I remember correctly, I never said anything bad to that one prince." "Right," scoffed Nova. Sometimes she wondered how Princess Ebony could be so naive. Like any of them, would have wanted a princess to house in their palace. A princess who has sworn she will never marry, and you expect some man to take you home out of the kindness of his heart. Surprise. Most royals are just as self-absorbed as you are. You should have been nice to at least one of them. "I was," protested Princess Ebony. "I didn't say anything mean to, Prince Kern. You know, the one with all the pimples." Princess Ebony tried to defend herself to Nova. "So you think dancing quietly while not saying anything about the pimples and pockmarks you stared at on his face constitutes being nice? You did not try to hide your distaste the whole time the two of you were on the dance floor. Then you pushed yourself away from him when the dance ended, nearly knocking him over trying to get away from him. You think that was being nice? Prince Kern was only missed by you yelling at him during your tantrum because your mate caught your eye. Prince Kern was insignificant to you, and you didn't even try to hide it. I am sure he was quite grateful for that act of kindness while you walked right past him like he didn't exist. If I remember right, I heard a sigh of relief from him as you passed him. You were struggling to remember his name. All you could remember was the blemishes on his face," Nova scolded. Nova's words stung harshly. Yet there was nothing that she had said that Princess Ebony could refute. Princess Ebony dismissed Nova and her words. She didn't have time to think about all of that. Princess Ebony was beginning to wonder if having an ancient dragon was a good thing. It seemed like lately all Nova did was preach to her. The nobles watching her walk towards the throne room didn't have a friendly face among them. The men looked smug. Most of the women who had dutifully accompanied their husbands looked disinterested, while a couple of the other women looked as smug as the men. Maybe one of the women looked a little bit sad. Princess Ebony could only hope it was true. "Wishful thinking," Nova said dryly. "It's not like you ever tried to be friendly with any of those women when they came to court. Do you even know their names?" "Nova, I need you. I need your support," cried Princess Ebony. "Please." Nova sighed as the trio stopped before the throne room doors. The two guards at either side of the entrance stepped forward and grabbed the doorknobs and pulled the double doors open. "Maybe I am a bit more upset at you for the situation we find ourselves in today than I thought. That being said, I apologize, not for what I said, but how I said it. I am here with you until the end," said Nova as Princess Ebony. Captain Geralt and Bella walked through the open doors. The throne room was very large. 2 rows of 10 marble columns lined the aisle that led to the thrones. The columns were 20 feet apart and stood 30 feet tall and held the large roof. There were 2 more rows of columns that circled the throne, and above them the roof arched into a dome. In the area around the throne there was room for one shifter to shift into a large dragon, but the room could only hold one. Any more dragons would cause colossal damage to the columns and the roof. 2 thrones sat under the dome roof. The king's throne was made of a single large piece of granite that was off-white and had gray lines running through the stone. The seat, the back of the chair halfway up and inside the armrests, were polished smoothly. Below the seat behind King Liam's legs and feet, there were 2 dragons etched into the stone inlaid with gold and gold flames shooting from their mouths. The armrests were 2 smaller dragons. A large dragon's head was carved into the top of the back half of the throne and stretched out over the king's head. The dragon had a fearsome snout with 3 large horns on it. The queen's throne on the left side of the king was also made from the same material, but on a less grand scale. It had the same style of armrests and 1 smaller dragon etched below the seat. The guards started to shut the large doors that stood at the entrance of the royal throne room. "Stop," shouted Lord Lyndon. "Keep the doors open. I am sure that all the nobles out in the hallway want to hear the proceedings. There will be nothing kept hidden here today. If they can be quiet, they are free to enter." Captain Geralt and Bella left Princess Ebony to walk alone to the front of the throne room. Bella slid into the shadows against the back wall, while Captain Geralt remained at the back just inside the entrance. Neither one of them wanted any kind of attention drawn to them. Once again, Princess Ebony raised her chin, hiding her fear, bracing herself for the upcoming judgment as she walked down the aisle between the columns. The 6 councilmen stood at the foot of the 3 steps that led to where the thrones of her parents stood. There were 3 on each side, standing facing each other, leaving room for Princess Ebony to face King Liam in the middle of them. King Liam and Queen Breit sat waiting for Princess Ebony as she approached. To the right of King Liam stood Prince Edwin. Directly behind him and slightly to the right, so he could be seen, stood Davin, bearing his now lightly bruised face. On the left side of her mother stood her nanny Elsie, the bruises from Princess Ebony's pinches showing clearly on Elsie's arms. Princess Ebony was not surprised to see Davin, well, not totally surprised. But Prince Edwin and Elsie's presence shocked her. Prince Edwin was too young to rightfully be here for the proceedings. As for Elsie, Princess Ebony never imagined that the timid old lady who was her nanny would ever have the courage to stand up against her. The councilman looked angry and determined. Queen Breit was staring at the far wall, ignoring her daughter, who was almost to the steps that led up to the throne. King Liam looked very upset and a bit distraught. Prince Edwin was smiling, like he was having the time of his life, while the 2 standing beside the thrones looked smug. Finally, Princess Ebony stood before her father and mother with 3 councilmen on either side of her. They all turned to face the king with her. It bothered Princess Ebony that it seemed to her that her mother was there but not mentally present. Queen Breit wouldn't look at her daughter. What Princess Ebony didn't know was her mother had been crying her eyes out since last night. The king had ordered her several times to stop, but she couldn't. Queen Breit's heart was broken. It wasn't so much because of the things Princess Ebony had done at the ball. She was afraid of the consequences her daughter might have to face. Finally, King Liam had had enough of the waterworks. He had threatened to have her beaten if she showed one tear of remorse for their daughter in the throne room, especially if she cried during the reading of the verdicts in the punishment phase. King Liam had never spoken like that to Queen Breit before, and she could tell he was very serious. So Queen Breit was studying the carvings on the wall that depicted various scenes of Valerian's ancient history in an attempt to not dwell on the proceedings playing out in front of her. Alondra, her dragon, was singing songs about Alarion to her. She was lost in her own little world, blotting out everything and everyone around her. She did not dare to spare even one glance at Princess Ebony. On the other hand, Prince Edwin was delighted that finally his uppity sister would be taken down a notch. His dragon Magnus, for some reason he couldn't understand, considered his sister a threat. Now that the threat was being eliminated, his dragon was very happy. Prince Edwin wasn't mature enough to know what decorum was, or how to practice it. He stood with a smirk on his face that covered up the smile in his heart. Davin was also delighted that he had been given the honor to stand as a witness to Princess Ebony's behavior. He had been presented to the king by Captain Geralt almost immediately after his arrival at the castle after that morning's fiasco. If Princess Ebony had not tapped into the power of her dragon at the ball, King Liam would have considered Davin's testimony as pure fabrication. Of course, Davin glossed over his account of what happened between Princess Ebony and him, and how it was that he started training her. He hid certain facts like his affair with Mariana, and made up a whole different story of how she had blackmailed him. King Liam thought the blackmail story weak but had no proof. Actually, he didn't care to hear Princess Ebony's side of the story. His gut feeling was that if she told the whole truth, it would make her look worse than Davin any way she told it. He didn't want any more of the facts presented than had already been stated secretly in the prior meeting with the councilmen. As for the king, he had to push down the love he had for his only daughter. He was reliving every indulgence he had allowed her. She was so beautiful and so precocious. Everyone loved her as a child. But then she grew up spoiled, and even though she was beautiful on the outside, on the inside she was ugly and cruel. He couldn't understand the change in her. He sat on his throne wishing he had done a little less indulging and a little more disciplining. Maybe then she might not have brought them to this day. He remembered the day she was born. The prophecy given at her birth was a thorn in his flesh. Then he remembered the day she had come home from a walk by the lake, her eyes jet black. That was when the changes had slowly begun. The attitude, the way she was always disappearing, and her haughtiness, it all had begun to develop after that day. Adonis. He addressed his dragon. You didn't notice anything the day that my daughter came home with her black eyes? You didn't sense a dragon that day? Adonis didn't answer immediately. If I remember that day correctly, when you asked her about the color of her eyes, I didn't really think much about it. I didn't sense anything about her that would have made me think that she had a dragon. How old was she when that happened? Wasn't she about 14 to 15? She was way too young for us to suspect that she might have gotten her dragon then. Do you sense anything about her now? King Liam asked. No, replied Adonis. How she does it, I don't know, but her dragon is keeping herself hidden from us again. King Liam sighed. Let's get this over with. I hope Ebony doesn't get so angry she shifts and brings the roof down on us.